Hello everybody and welcome to Carry Code. We are a channel dedicated to giving informative information about everyday carry items, pocket knives, flashlights, tools, and things like that. So today we're going to be talking about what I think are 5 of the best everyday carry pocket knives that I use the most. So we've got a couple different categories here, and again, this is going to be for pocket knives that I think are good for most people. There are certainly more expensive and less expensive knives out there than what I'm going to show today, and ones that have special features or super steels or things like that. But what this is really going to be focused on is what is best for most people. So what we're going to start with first is what I think is probably one of the better budget items. So the 2 that I have here are actually a little bit upgraded versions, but these are the Vision FG by Civivi. So both of these that I have are Damascus steels on the blade with G10 handles and a deep carry pocket clip. So these typically run for these upgraded versions around $100, maybe a little bit more, and then you can get versions that just have Nitro V steel instead of the Damascus, and you can tend to find those more in the $70 to $80 range. But there are lots of variants of this out here, and what I think makes this one of the best everyday carry knives is this locking mechanism. It's just super smooth, one hand to actuate to close, one hand to open, very, very, very smooth. And then you also have the thumb stud too. And I've done nothing to these knives out of the box. They're fall open, easy to flick closed. The materials feel really good. The fit and finish is really good. Spacing is good on these. So I just think they're really, really hard to beat for $100. And the steel is pretty sharp out of the box. This blade shape is just super useful. You kind of got a little bit of a choil here if you want it. But the handle just feels really good. Otherwise, I mean, you can see it. I have a pretty big hand and it just fits in here nice. So just really cool knife, really great kind of shark lock style opening and closing mechanism. Very, very fidgety. But it's a steel that's going to kind of hold up for you on the blade. It's nice and thick stock, but still pretty slicey on the blade itself. So it's just going to be a really good knife for most people. So I would call this kind of the budget category. I mean, we're here talking about knives for people that are enthusiasts. So, you certainly can go out and get a gas station knife or a knife at, a home goods type store like Home Depot or Lowe's for much cheaper than this, but you're going to kind of get what you pay for. So really getting into the collecting knives, having something that's going to last for you a long time. Civivi is a really good brand for that, but I really, really like these Vision FGs. So the next one I'm going to show is what I think is just a really great all-around knife for kind of fit and finish. There's lots of options with it. They've really been expanding the blade shapes that you can get on it recently, but the next one I really like is the Kaiser drop bear. So the one that I have here is in a green and yellow fat carbon scale, but you can get these again in all kinds of different colors. You can get different blade steels for these as well, and like I said, a lot of different blade shapes. So this version here runs about $200, but they have versions that range from the low hundreds, and they have ones that are going to go up above that $200 price point as well. But the thing that I really, really love about this knife is just out of the box, it's just so smooth. This was with no breaking at all. Pretty good centering on it. The materials feel nice with the fat carbon. It feels great with the thumb stud. It feels great with the kind of axis lock style as well. This particular one has 20 CV stainless steel on it, 20 CV steel. But yeah, really good product from Kaiser. Like I said, it's a little bit more higher price point if you want some of these fat carbon colors that they have. They have reds and blues and purples and all manner of colors. And they have, I believe, some like G10 scales as well that you can get that are, like I say, going to be more budget friendly. But you really can't beat it for just what you can do with it. It's so versatile, this blade shape, the drop point blade shape. It feels really good in the hand. You know, it's a little bit smaller than the Vision FG we just looked at, but overall it just feels great. You know, materials feel great, but the action is just where it's at. And you do have this like nice jimping all along the top, so no matter where you want to grab it at, you do have some nice jimping there that you can hold on to. But it's just great action. It fits good in the pocket. It's a little bit thicker than some competitors in this price point with the fat carbon. I mean, you can see it there. It's a little bit thicker material. So it is a little bit more substantial in the pocket width-wise. But, you know, size-wise, just really, really good. So that's number 2 for me on the list. So we're going to mix it up a little bit with number 3. For anybody that likes OTF or, you know, out the front knives, I think really for the price and for everyday carry, you can't beat the Kershaw live wire. So again, with this one, they've got lots of variants out there. You know, you can get tanto blades, you can get dagger blades, you can get reverse tanto, you can get all kinds of different shapes, and they also have a million colors, you know, in aluminum and carbon fiber. This particular one is black aluminum, and it has a 2-tone blade. But, you know, I've had a couple of OTFs. They're not really what I carry most, but I have found this one to be one that I'm carrying more and more in my pocket. You know, I've traditionally been someone that's going to carry a folding pocket knife and not the automatic OTF, but I do really like this one. You know, most of the ones that you see coming from Microtech or from you know, some of the other big brands that are out there, they're just really big and bulky, and you know, they have a cool aesthetic. But the price points are really high on them too. You know, typically these OTFs, Benchmade, like I said, Microtech, and some of the others, Heretic, you know, they're in the $400, $500, $600 price range for a lot of their OTFs. And you know, this one, for what it is a really great value. This one, as it stands right now, is about $260. So I mean, really, you're getting this for almost $150 less than some of those competitors. And one of the big draws for this for me too, and one thing I love that Kershaw is doing lately, is really getting into MagnaCut. You know, MagnaCut is my favorite steel right now. So I'll try to zoom in here so you can see there the MagnaCut. Because it's just so versatile. You know, you're safe with it, using it in more water environments. You're safe with it, you know, having a nice edge retention. And it's just so slicey too. You know, they can just refine it down to such a fine edge on the MagnaCut that's really, really just a great steel. So you know, for me in my everyday, a lot of what I'm cutting is just boxes and tape and and cords and things like that. You know, like paracord type stuff. I don't need anything too fancy. I'm not really beating up knives, and so I can't really speak to how well this one would hold up in an everyday carry if you're in a very heavy, intensive environment. But I mean, the form factor of this is great. You know, the length is just right. You know, a lot of OTFs, there's a lot of resistance on the button, and this one feels just right to me. There is enough resistance that you're not going to accidentally, you know, deploy it, but it's not so hard that you can't do it. And you know, I'm a pretty strong guy, and there's some of the OTFs that I have tried out that I feel like I'm going to rip the skin off of my thumb before I get this thing deployed. So, and I really like this button too, kind of that it's you know, a mimic shape on both sides, and you know, this is really, really pretty slim. You know, I'll show the Para 2 as a comparison here. They're about the same size on the handle. And then with the blade deployed here, about the same size there too. But you can see it's a lot thinner. It's got this really nice deep carry pocket clip in it. So just in the pocket, you know, this thing just feels great. It feels fantastic. I love the milling on it. It's smooth, it's the right size, it's the right force. It kind of just disappears in your pocket. So number 3 on the list, if you like OTFs, you can't go wrong with the Kershaw Livewire, I think, right now. It's just a great knife. All right, number 4 on my list is going to be also a Kershaw. And honestly, I think this is probably the best knife for most people. But number 5 on the list here is going to be my favorite kind of everyday carry. But the best for most people, I think, is really, and I think this won Knife of the Year in 2024 from a lot of people, but it's the Kershaw Belair. So I've got a couple variants here that I think look really good. But just a great knife. It's a little bit smaller. You know, if you're looking at like the Benchmade, it's a little bit smaller than the Benchmade. I mean, compare it to the Civivi, you know, just a little bit smaller there on the length and just a little bit smaller on the width. So it's really nice and lightweight, especially this carbon fiber version. I mean, this one is just, I mean, you can see how thin it is there, and the action on this, just so smooth, very fidgety, you know, I love it. And there's different materials here as well. You know, we've got aluminum here. This is kind of a raw aluminum. And then this is the carbon fiber look to it. And you can see they've got some of the black blades. They've got more polished blades. But again, one thing with Kershaw, everything's going to MagnaCut, which I think is a great move. It's just a great steel to work with for them. And I mean, look at how thin that is. I mean, just so thin on the edge, so thin on the blade, but the blade is still super strong. And so they're just so immensely slicey when you get that MagnaCut steel. And like I said, the feel on this is just great. You know, the thumb stud feels great. Drop close. You know, there is a little bit of a detip when you close, so if you kind of let go of the button, it's not going to kind of grab your fingers if you do that. But, you know, super easy to flick open, flick closed. But the thumb stud feels great on these. You know, I will say there's something oddly satisfying about this aluminum version. It's just a little bit clickier. So when you get a really good, you know, open and close on it, it just sounds great. But these right here, the carbon fiber one, typically is running around the $210 mark right now. And the aluminum variants are around $150. I have seen these on sale a little bit at some stores I've gone and looked at, but I mean, just for most people, this is going to be your best bet. It's thin, you don't feel it in your pocket, deep carry pocket clip, which is very underrated to have. I mean, so many people go out and are buying Lynch clips and things. I've got one on this next knife that I'll show as well. It's just an added cost. And so to be able to get this with the deep carry, with the MagnaCut, with a nice aluminum handle or carbon fiber in such a small form factor, such a slicey, low maintenance blade, you just can't go wrong with it. So really love the Kershaw Belair. All right, so now we will get to what is my favorite everyday carry knife. So this is my personal modified everyday carry knife. But it's the Spyderco Para 3. And as you can see here, you can probably tell it's my favorite because I've got several variants of it. So I'll lay them all out here. So, just, I mean, from a form factor perspective, kind of what carries through with all these, you know. Here's the Kaiser. They're just kind of that perfect sweet size. You know, I laid out before the Para 2, and for a long time the Para 2 was my go-to knife that I carried. But after carrying it a while and using it at work, and it's a great knife, but it's a little intimidating to some people. It's just a little big to some people, and so when you compare the size here, it's just a lot easier to handle this Para 3, and you get the same shape, the same type of handle. I mean, with the Para 2, like, yeah, it's a great handle, great place to put your thumb, but it's probably a little more than you need. Again, bigger hands, and you can see I've got plenty of room there. So for me, the love with Spyderco kind of started with the Para 2, but I've since kind of moved on and said, okay, Para 3 is really where I want to be at. It's the right size, it's the right thickness. I mean, you can see here, you've got canvas materials, you've got fat carbons, and these are actually aftermarket scales that I've purchased. They've got like the FRN or lightweight materials. You've got the salt material, so this is like a really grippy, kind of rough, frictiony material here. And you've got all kinds of blade steels. So we've got S45 VN here on kind of my custom that I have, and here's the lynch clip I was talking about that I added as well. One thing I do not like about Spyderco, is it's my one kind of pet peeve with them, is their clips. I mean, they're not great. I know some people love some of the wire clips that they have on their lower price stuff, but when you get into some of this, or like, you have here the wire clip, at least this is a deep carry. But when you get into these higher price point knives, to have it mounted so low and not be a deep carry clip, it just really sticks up above your pocket. And for such a small knife, it really would be better off with a deep carry like that wire deep carry or like the lynch clip. And I mean, if lynch can make it, why can't Spyderco just make it out of the box? This is not any more expensive than this. Well, I guess maybe it is a little bit, but you know what I'm saying. So anyway, so why is this my favorite knife beyond just the form factor and the size and the materials? Well, the build quality is fantastic. It's been talked about time and time again, but the Spidey hole here for the Spidey flick just feels great. Ambidextrous, but I think the real thing here is the compression lock system. Fall closed, you can flick it open like that. You can use the Spidey hole, but the action on them are just great. The build quality is great, especially the stuff coming out of their Golden, Colorado factory. They're just fantastic knives. You just know it's going to hold up, and they all come out of the box so sharp, so slicey. I guess maybe that's the thing that really gets it for me for knives, that you can tell from these 5. So I really like a knife that has a nice slicey edge. Like I said, I'm doing a lot of like cardboard cutting and things like that, so I just want something that's just going to slice through things like butter, and I want low maintenance. So these offer this. But looking at some of the other options here, so this one's got CPM crew wear, which is a great steel. The S45 VN, the BD1N steel here on the lightweight, and then MagnaCut on this new salt variant, which I just think looks great. A lot better than all that yellow that they had previously with the black and yellow. I just like the all blackout look. For these, very little done to have to break them in. So they all kind of have that fall closed, which I love. And then, the lightweight, there's, again, something about this one, just the sound when you get that actuating just right, which is hard to do here while you're trying to hold it in front of a camera, but just the noise, the click that it makes just sounds great. So I will link these scales in case you like them down in the comments below. But yeah, so I bought these extra to kind of tailor this for my taste here. And this is my #1 everyday carry that I carry here, is this Para 3 with the lynch clip, these custom scales. One thing I did run into with these, just so nobody else runs into it, for these custom scales, you really have to be careful with Spyderco on what the original construction is. So typically these scales are made to only work with the Para 3s that come with the G10 handles. So I originally ordered these scales and was intending to put them on this one that has the canvas material, because I mean, I haven't carried it a ton, but it just wasn't darkening up like I wanted to. It was just staying a little too light. So I really wanted to get the new scales on that one. But come to find out, these have different liners than the G10. The G10 are kind of integrated down in to the material. I don't know if you can see it in there at all. But these are kind of full liners, so it doesn't work with the canvas. The lightweight has a different liner, so it doesn't work with the lightweight. And the Salt, I believe, also has different retainers. I'm not 100% sure on this one, but I think this one also has different liners in there. So really, if you want the custom handles, you really have to stick with getting a G10 base model and then switching it out. So that is my top 5 everyday carry knives that I like best, that I think work for most people. That's going to give you the most range to stand up to what you're going to do with it on a given day, but still be comfortable in your pocket, have that smaller form factor, and just really be a great knife. Now, I do want to leave one other option out there as well for people to look at. If you're a Benchmade fan, you probably know what's coming, but it's the 940 Osborne. It's just been super, super popular for years, and it is a great knife. I will say there's a little bit to it that makes it maybe unique for some people, that they may not like it. The form factor is just different than any other knife out there, and that's the good and the bad of it. It's plenty long for your hand. I mean, it's about as short as I would want it here, but and there is some jimping up here that's nice. But in the position that you're holding it, it just feels like you're a little bit far away from the blade. Like being able to have your finger up here for a choil or something would make this just feel a little bit more stable. So a lot of times, even though it's a great knife, I don't reach for this because it feels like the blade is long and far away from what I'm doing. And then also, I've never been able to really prove it. I'm pretty sure that if you drew a line, this would be completely straight. But just the way you're holding it, it always makes it feel like the blade's kind of pointed downward, which I think makes it a little bit harder to use when you're wanting to do like a flat cut, like grinding on like a piece of rope or something. It just makes it difficult. But there are 2 options here. So this is an S90V carbon fiber version, and this is one of their newer versions, which is the aluminum kind of copper look with MagnaCut. So MagnaCut fan here, of course, but these are 2 other options. But the one thing that I hesitate with Benchmade, when I started out in my collection and really buying pocket knives and looking at what was out there, Benchmade is what I started with. That's what my local store had. They looked the coolest, and at the time, the price, it was expensive, but reasonable for what you got. But their prices just keep going up and up and up. I mean, just the aluminum version with nothing special on these Osbornes is at $240 right now. This copper version is $340 for an auto. So they do have an auto if you like that. It's $300 for this version as shown here. So I mean, the prices are just high. The carbon fibers at $350, and actually these are probably some of the better value Benchmades that are out there. But when you get these things, they take more break-in. This one, I think I had to loosen up the pivot, definitely had to oil it. So I just feel like the quality coming out of the factory just maybe isn't there on all of them. Like typically if you get some of these more limited run ones with the different colors, they seem to have better action and stuff out of the box and require less break-in. But overall, I think Benchmade, they're just getting a little expensive. I mean, I still think these are great knives, and they've been around for a long time, and they're very versatile. So just as a bonus, I wanted to show that if you're a Benchmade fan or thinking about Benchmade, I think this is the best one to start with. and get into for a good everyday carry. And it kind of fits the same profile that I've been looking at, which is, you know, thinner, lighter weight, easy to carry in the pocket. It's not going to be big and bulky and bother you being there. So I think this is another good option as well. But just keep in mind, I have seen lately more variants, knife to knife from Benchmade, on how well the action moves right out of the box, and the prices keep going up. So I think, you know, looking at it, going back to it, better value. Like I said, this one's, I think I said $340 right now versus $200 for this guy. They're both in MagnaCut. So, and I mean, even if you go down to this one, which this one's, I guess, a better comparison. So $350 here versus $200, and then $150 versus like $340. So you're getting almost the same size here. You know, these are a little bit more pocketable, although this is not bad at all. But you're getting what I think is a better edge coming out of the box with the Kershaw. It's more slicey and way better action, and for $200 less. So if you're a Benchmade fan, you have to have a Benchmade. Osborne's the way to go. But if you really don't care and you're just looking for the best knife, like I said, this is why I called it the best knife for most people. I really think it's the Kershaw Belairs. They're just such a great value for the materials they have, for the action they have out of the box. They're really great. I will say the one thing that I have had a little bit of issue with on the Kershaw, I'm a little different than most people. I like to carry my pocket knife in my left pocket, even though I'm right-handed. Just because I keep my phone in my right pocket, so I've just always been a guy that keeps it in the left pocket. The only thing I've had problems with on these Kershaws is these screws seem very easy to strip out on the Belairs. So I think it was on this one that I tried to flip it around, and they just started stripping and they wouldn't come out all the way. So these particular Kershaws I tend to carry in my right pocket. Just because even though they can be flipped, they seem to strip out easier. So just one thing to note there. But so that kind of wraps up my my best of video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was informative. I'll leave the links down below for all of these knives if you want to go purchase them. But yeah, so we'll leave it with that. Again, my top pick for me personally, Spyderco Para 3. Can't beat the size, can't beat the quality, sharp out of the box, just love it. So I'll see you guys again soon. Thanks.